What up? What up? Welcome to the Life of a Trendsetter show, episode 1. I'm Mike Harris, your host. Today we're going to be chopping it up with Malcolm Ruben, financial advisor for Principal Securities. We got a great show coming to y'all today. Tap in and check out the show. Welcome, YouTube, to the Life of a Trendsetter show. This is a brand new show aimed at highlighting trendsetters, people that's out there making changes, positive changes in their community, people that are setting new trends, and for lack of a better phrase, they making it happen, Captain. I'm your host, Mike Harris, CEO and founder of the Prototype Sports Agency. And today, as your very first guest, I had the honor of introducing Malcolm Ruben, financial advisor for Principal Securities. Welcome to the show, Malcolm.
Thanks for having me, man. What's up, Mike? Good to see you, boy.
Good to see you too, man. I think it's been 6 years since we met in the real estate sector, and we were both working with Empire Communities.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, I don't want to get on here and do a bunch of cap and talk about how, you were my protege and I did so many things to help you get your career jump started. But, just so everybody that's watching the show knows, Malcolm and I have a relationship that dates back years ago in the real estate sector. We were both working
Yeah.
as new home sales consultants for Empire Communities. We both did very well, and we're still both involved in the real estate sector. I know myself, but Malcolm has moved on to the financial world. He is now a financial advisor for Principal Securities here in Houston, Texas.
hmm
Malcolm, how about you tell us a little bit more about your background and what made you get into the financial services industry?
Man, I'm a former athlete myself, man. So I know that there's a need for the space that we're in. There's a lot of movers and shakers and not a whole lot of trust. So I know that with me, man, I'm that's where my heart lies. I love athletes. I love money. Why not put them both together?
For sure.
Yeah.
Facts, and who doesn't? Who doesn't? And
Yeah.
we living in a very unique world right now in which 2025 we've seen a lot of changes that came after COVID. There's
Right.
a lot of people that are struggling financially, let alone the athletes. So I know that you want to make sure that you put yourself in the best position to be a resource for athletes as well as any other clients that you might be bringing on board. What type of certifications do you hold right now with your financial services advisor role?
Yeah, so I'm licensed with my Series 7 and my Series 66. Those are designations that allow me to pretty much handle any type of financial security, whether it be insurance, investments, anything under the sun. I'm able to do it.
Okay, okay. And I know that most people in the financial world hold multiple certifications and they don't just narrow it down to one particular type of client. You're pretty
Right.
well versed in all of those areas.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, my business is really geared towards uh, whether it be athletes, people that go from 0 to 6 figures like overnight, so or people that are getting close to retirement. So that's really where my business is focused at.
Okay. And you actually local here. I'm based out of Katy, Texas, which for you guys that's watching this, that's really west of Houston. We like
hmm
to call it West Houston, but where I am, it's a little bit further west outside of the outer loop of 99. You're in central Houston.
Yeah.
What would you say your clients right now is? Are you working with more people locally? Is the bulk of your business remote? And
Yeah.
on top of that, is there an advantage either way of working with more people locally versus
Yeah.
remote?
I've lived all over the country, so I got a few clients kind of sprinkled all over the U.S., but most of my clients are right here at home. I think it's important that you're able to kind of look your advisor in the eye, shake his hand, and get an idea of like the community that your clients are trying to serve, and especially for these young athletes out here. I mean, it's good, and important to see the city that they're trying to serve, man. So I love having that face to face. You know what I mean?
For sure, for sure. Houston's a big city. With today's media, the world seems like it's a whole lot smaller than it was. We can get in touch with people across the world, but from my standpoint, in my view, it's always better to work with somebody locally. When I'm doing my taxes, when I'm doing things that are very important that involve
Right.
working with the numbers, if there's somebody that's local that, as you mentioned, I can pull up at the office, I can meet at a coffee shop, or I could just be able to put a face to the phone. that gives me a whole lot more confidence that I'm working with the right guy. I'm working with the person that's going to get the job done.
Certainly.
So what would you say your approach is in terms of, like, how would you describe working with athletes, high wealth individuals that actually just suddenly came into money? This didn't happen over a period where they knew, like, kind of a strategy, a plan, a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan. They just kind of, came right into some money. What's your experience in terms of working with people like that?
Um, I think what's really important is just getting to know your client. I mean, these are like really rash decisions that you got to make really quickly. So I think it's important that you build flexibility into your approach. I take a very offensive and defensive approach to wealth management, so protecting what we have, and then also making sure that what we have lasts longer than our time in the game. I think that that's really important. But I like to take my time and really get to know who I'm working with, because there is no one size fits all framework to managing someone's wealth. Different people have different passions, so we got to make sure that it's tailored to that person.
When you think about that, most people don't think about a means to an end. So we talked about somebody suddenly coming into wealth. In most cases, that would be at the beginning stages of their career.
Right.
What's your approach to helping these athletes and high wealth individuals transition from their playing career or having active income to retirement?
Man, I think it's important to just build a plan. I think a lot of people that come into immediate income or large amounts of money really, really quickly, they bring their old habits with them. So I think it's important that we, like I mentioned earlier, build some flexibility into that plan. Maybe if we do have a frivolous kind of guy, right, we establish a budget that is the fun money over here, right? That way, whenever you are spending, you don't feel guilty about doing it. It's like, hey, I already prepared for this, right? So if you want to go spend 50 racks on the new chain because you just caught your first 2 touchdowns in the same game, let's do that. We got it over here. You know what I mean? Versus us just kind of making decisions that aren't really planned for. You know what I mean? So everything has a plan, and that's my favorite part of it all. It's kind of like preparing for a new opponent or making sure that we're going over our playbook, right? We're prepared. So whenever it's not really a reaction thing. It's like it's not really like I guess you can say, we're kind of like proactive instead of reactive, if you will, right? So we plan for
Yeah.
this.
They say when preparation meets opportunity, it's a beautiful thing. You can
Absolutely.
already be ready for it. You got a
Absolutely.
vision that says, "Hey, this is what I'm gonna do when we get to this stage," and you do everything to prepare for it. If
That's
if you if you had a particular philosophy that you could sum up in one sentence in terms of how you would describe your investment philosophy, what would that be?
I would say simple wealth, steady habits, good decisions. Honestly,
Yeah,
simple
yeah.
wealth, steady habits, good decisions.
That's solid. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes less is more. That's why I asked you to sum it up in one sentence. We can talk all day long about all of this fancy stuff. You got a lot of gurus out there that, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're all people that you don't want to listen to or take advice from. But I think we are seeing a lot of that, especially in the social media space, where you
Absolutely.
can't really trust that advice, and a lot of it's fluff. So someone like you that can offer a very simple strategy, I think that that's really appreciated when we talk about investment. But if we talk about risk versus reward, in my space and working with athletes, the average career span for an NFL player in most cases is about 3 to 4 years, and that's if you're lucky. So, how would you balance the risk versus reward when you're sitting down mapping out a plan and you're educating an athlete that has a short earnings window? You know that they only gonna, maybe potentially, the numbers say that they're only gonna play maybe 3 years,
Like three
and
years
then
now,
after that they got to figure it out after that.
man. I'm glad that you asked that question. It kind of goes back to something I had mentioned earlier about offense and defense, right? When it comes to managing our wealth, it's not just about growing it, it's about protecting it too, right? So I take this offensive and defensive approach to the entire financial game plan. And I think that that gives people peace of mind, so that we can protect what we've been able to earn and then ensure that it lasts longer than, like I said, the game is being played. I know that one of my uncle, he played for the Green Bay Packers back in the 70s, but he only played for 2 seasons. And after that it was a wrap. You know what I mean? And he was trying to figure it out. And me being a young guy, my uncle kind of imparted some of that mentorship into me. He's like, hey man, look, save your chickens, you know.
Yep.
I think that it's important that we take that offensive and defensive approach to it to make sure that our money lasts longer than our game does. Because we know one play can change everything.
I agree with that. You hit it on the head, and that's we preach that to a lot of the clients because it works both ways. In some cases, you don't have an opportunity, so you're already coming in from a standpoint of I'm waiting for an opportunity, and we try to say, well, hey, we don't wish any ill will on anybody, but you're one play away.
One
And so
play
the
away.
same way that you're one play away from having an opportunity, the next player is one play away from losing that opportunity, and it may not come back.
Yeah,
So, we try to make sure that we have all of the clients prepared for these short earning windows. If you're lucky to have an 8, 10, 12 year career that can set you in a position where you're squared away financially for life, that's great. But we need to be having these conversations with financial advisors like yourself that can help put a plan in place in the event that the numbers are more accurate than our hopes and wishes in terms of having a long career.
absolutely.
Do you actually manage your clients' money directly, or is that something that you kind of outsource out to, like maybe an investment management firm, similar to like what a real estate agent would do with the property management company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I more so focus on the relationship aspect and the strategy behind it. But I have a full team of guys that are sitting down looking at charts all day, making all the decisions on what to buy, what to sell, where they want to be. You know what I mean? So, I can do that stuff, but I'd rather be out front, building the relationships and building the trust and getting people in, connected with the right people, with the right
Right.
folks.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I got a solid team behind me for sure.
absolutely. That's big, man. I mean, trust is at the center of everything, as well as relationships. And
Certainly.
solid relationships will take us a lot further than maybe some of our individual skill sets. If you got somebody that you can trust, that they're going to take care of you. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter in a lot of cases if they don't know how to do one particular thing that might seem like a big thing, but maybe they have a relationship with an individual or a team of individuals that can help get those things accomplished for you. And it works in the same regard because they've been out here working with those people, they trust them, and so you're coming into a position where they trust you, so relationships are going to be at the heart of everything.
Absolutely.
Um, we want to make sure that we have firm, solid relationships where people know what we stand for.
Absolutely.
And with that being said, you talked about a portfolio, or the different things that they might be offering. Well, hey, do this versus this, and then we need to put some money over here, and we need to look at these type of things like trust and whatnot. So, what's more of your process for building a diversified portfolio? Are there certain things that you recommend going more heavy into versus other things where you might not want to risk as much money, or
Yeah.
in a certain area?
Man, that's a really good question. I think the best approach to portfolios is building flexibility into the portfolio. I think it's important that we don't just tie people's assets up, right? You want to be able to have fun with it. You earned it, right? We want to be able to
Right.
see it, touch it, feel it. Hey, man, can I pull some of this out? Yeah, man, let's do it, but let's prepare, right?
Yeah.
It relates to particular sectors to be involved in. Hey, whatever's hot right now is what we're going to play, depending on my client's personality, right? If he isn't, if he doesn't want to invest in companies that promote, alcohol, we ain't doing that, right? If you're, if you're a religious faith, like if you're Muslim and you don't want to promote companies that sell pork, we ain't doing that, right? So it just depends, and it's all a part of just getting to know your client. You know what I mean? But I think at the forefront of things is making sure that me as an advisor, I'm flexible and I'm able to provide flexible strategies that ultimately result in a flexible portfolio that allow my client to be exactly who they are with their finances.
Sure. So with that being said, how do you approach liquidity management, large purchases? So for instance, hey, you got $3 million. How much of that is too much to have on hand at one point in time, so you don't go out and make too many large purchases that can turn from assets to liabilities very quickly, versus saying, hey, you do need to have X amount over here to be able to treat yourself, like you just mentioned, to be able to go buy a car, be able to go buy something liquid, where you're not always having to borrow against a life insurance policy or borrow against something, and in some cases risk what the entire plan that you've put in place so far. How big are you on that and trying to, if you had to, if I had to say, hey Malcolm, if you were in their shoes, what would be your strategy versus, okay, going out and buying that large Mercedes or that $50,000 you
Yeah.
talked about?
Well, I don't think it makes sense to have a whole lot of cash on you at one time, right? I mean, that's just a liability. But I think that those big purchases, they deserve small pauses, right? So let's take a pause real quick, right? Let's kind of plan for what we're going to do before all the emotion kicks in, because that's whenever the bad decisions are made. Whenever that emotion kicks in, they done sold you on the rolls and was like, man, can't you see yourself pulling up to practice in this, to the game in this, right? Let's pause. Let's think about it, and then let's put a plan together to make this decision. That way, it doesn't hurt after we do it. That way, you don't have that buyer's remorse afterwards, right? But as it relates to having cash on hand, man, my grandfather was the guy that always kept like $1,000 on him at any given time. Like he was player like that, right?
Yep.
Um, and in some cases that makes sense, but if that's not your personality type, it all depends on who that client is. You know what I mean? And I don't have full autonomy. Like I am at the mercy of my client's needs, right? I just give advice, and it's either yours to either accept or deny. You know what I mean? But ultimately, I'm gonna give you best practices, right? But
Yep.
for these athletes, man, they want to have fun. You know what I mean? You worked hard
Yep.
for it, so let's have a little cash on hand, but let's plan for it.
For sure. We purchase on emotion, we justify with logic.
Absolutely.
Okay, I bought this house. The payment's gonna be $3,000 a month. I can't really afford it, but I can cut out my Netflix account and I can cut cable and I can do all of these other things
Mhm.
to save an additional $200 a month to pay for it.
Yeah,
We were taught that as consumers, and that's just the wrong way to go about it. We got to be able to sit down, make some sound decisions when we're not emotional, when we have some time to just really sit down and think it out. Is this the best purchase for me right now? Because trust me, those things are going to be here, and really, to be honest, the next best thing is going to be here. But you might put yourself in a position, especially as an athlete, where you're cut or you're
right,
traded,
right.
or we look at these contracts, and if a contract is so many millions of dollars, only so much of that is guaranteed. On top of that, you have players that are either on the active roster or the inactive roster. Depending on the language in that contract, that could be a totally different paycheck for you just 2 weeks from now versus what you thought you were going to have coming in. So we
Right.
definitely want to stay away from emotion. I'm glad you brought that up. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book that they've taught us as consumers. If we move into transparency and compensation, everybody's always counting your pockets, right? So it happens as a part of the game. I hate it, but to dive straight into it in terms of giving your clients as well as your future clients transparency on that. How do you get paid? Are you fee based? Are you commission? Are you a mix of both? What does
Yeah,
that look like?
I'm actually a combination of the two, right? That's something that I actually like to lead with my clients, help them understand like how I actually make money. Because if I don't, it's like they're hearing all this value, but they're like, man, how much does this cost? You know what I mean? So I like to lead with that and let them know up front. I'm a combination of the two. I'm fee based, and what that essentially means is I get paid an annual fee. What that means is I have a duty to perform, because if I do not perform, you can easily decide to stop paying that fee. And then, you know what I mean? So if you do well, I do well. And then commission, in the sense of there's certain things that you might need to support you, that just the way they get paid out to me as a commission has nothing to do with the client, but the people that are delivering it pay me a commission for it.
I think that's important that everybody that's watching this show understands exactly what Malcolm just said. If I don't perform for you, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid and I don't perform for you, more than likely you're firing me.
Right.
So I have every intention to fulfill anything that we've talked about in terms of a plan for you, an opportunity for you, because at the end of the day, How are we going to feed our families if we don't get paid? How are we going to go out and buy the things that we need from day to day to help us get from point A to point B, to get from today to tomorrow? So it's very important that y'all understand that we are, in most cases, financial advisors, sports agents, we are acting proactively to try to find new opportunities, to try to put
Absolutely.
you in the best
Absolutely.
situation where you can earn more. And of course, it's only right that we earn a percentage or a fee from helping you do that.
Yeah.
So, do you have any like description of any type of fees, management fees, product fees, performance fees that you could share with us, or
Yeah.
you
I
kind
mean,
of.
yeah, for sure. In today's day and age, most financial advisors are kind of moving towards a more fee-based kind of structure, if you will. If you don't have an advisor that's fee-based, man, prayers to you. But yeah, man, most advisors are charging anywhere from like, 0.75% to 1.25% of someone's portfolio, right? Anything outside of that, you can actually get in trouble for charging too much. It has to be a competitive rate, and most advisors are in that range. So
Okay. Okay. And that leads right into the next question is, are you a fiduciary 100% of the time? Meaning, do you
yeah,
have a legal obligation to act in the client's best interest? So just because something's going to make you 5% commission versus 1% commission, is
yeah,
it your obligation legally to put that client in the best product regardless of what you make out of the deal?
absolutely, Mike. That's a great question. I have to do what's best for my client. It's never really about me. It's always about them. So yeah.
For sure, for sure, for sure. What conflicts of interest might exist in your current structure? Break that
Um,
down to me.
Man, honestly, I feel like every advisor has potential conflicts. But I like to lead with like full disclosure and clarity. Honestly, I think that communication is key, and as long as we put all the cards on the table, then we should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Last question about fees. We sit down, we discuss it. You go over the game plan with the client, but how do you typically disclose the fees? Is it just a verbal conversation? Do you follow up
yeah,
with an email, or do you have a sample fee statement?
man. I like to go over statements, but I like to lead with that. Let's talk about cost first because that's oftentimes what's most important to people. So I like to lead with that. Let's put it all on the table.
You know, Tell me about like your frequency, like with how often do you meet or communicate with clients? Are you sending daily updates? Are you trying to meet once a week? What does that look like?
Man, at a minimum, it's quarterly. So I try to meet, 4 times a year. But it depends. The cadence depends on the client. Some clients don't need that much hand holding, so quarterly is at a minimum. But if someone says, hey, let's do two, we'll do two. You know what I mean?
Yep,
So it just kind
yep.
of depends on the client and what they need, what their comfortability level is.
Yep. And I threw that week out there just as an example, just running off at the mouth. Boy, that would be very aggressive. So don't none of y'all get the idea that your financial advisor's gonna start working with you and y'all gonna be sitting down at Starbucks every week, because that's
Yeah.
just not the way that works.
Yeah.
Trust me, they got a good grip. They got a good grip on what's going on with your portfolio. I'm sure you're getting verbal updates, or you're getting emails, or just different touch points. But I'm glad you were able to kind of clear that up and give us some guidance on kind of
Yeah.
what that looks like in terms of communication and meeting. Do you provide them like a full report whenever you give them an update, or is it sort of like a soft touch point to just say, hey, everything's looking good? What's that look like?
Man, it typically is a face-to-face meeting, or we can meet over teams like this. I love meeting in person. Maybe we go out for dinner or something like that, and just kind of talk about how you're doing, and maybe we can grab coffee or something. But there is a report provided that I can run through, very simple to understand, and help them see exactly what their portfolio is doing. That way, they can have some real-time numbers and see some charts
Yeah,
and some graphs. And like, yeah, man, I'm doing good. This time last year I was here, but now I'm here. As athletes, we love to see that growth, right? Last year
right.
I did 225, 15 times. This year I hit it 18 times. Like we want to see that.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's good, man. That's good. Scenario,
Oh,
man. You just bought that big house out there, Sugarland. You sitting on 3 acres, man. You just signed that contract for 30 million for 2 years.
yeah.
Man, I need to hold something. I need to hold some.
Yeah.
What's your advice when you talk with clients about the family and friend requests for money? How do you
Mhm.
kind of guide them and how to handle those situations? Because it's gonna happen. It's gonna
Yeah,
happen.
absolutely. Man, I think it's really important that whenever we are planning someone's portfolio, that we put together what I like to call the generosity budget, right? That way, whenever we do get those requests and we send that money out, it's not like, oh man, here you go. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, nah, we plan for this. That way, it's like, okay, I got this to give. Whenever it run out, I ain't giving no more, right? But
Mhm.
we got that budget in place, and it's for you to decide whether or not you want to give it out or not. You don't have to feel guilty or feel like they haggling you for it. It's like, hey, I prepared for this, so we good. At the end of the day,
Right.
man, I always say, if you fail to plan to fail, right?
You
So
fail a plan.
let's just put it away already. Let's already have this aside, so we're good.
I like the way that you coined that because generosity budget, because it's in most cases it's not coming back.
Nah,
We can look at it as a loan. I think in most of our experience, whether we got a lot of money or we don't, most of what we loaned out doesn't come back. And
yeah,
you can sit there and hold a grudge, fall out with somebody about a few dollars or a lot of dollars, but at the end of the day, you gave it to them. They asked for it, you gave it to them. So the only person you really can be mad with is yourself because you didn't have it in the generosity budget, or you did have it in the generosity budget, one or two. But I
right.
really, I really like that. I've called it a few different things over the years. One of them I probably shouldn't say on the show, but generosity budget is what I refer to it as moving forward.
Yeah, for sure.
What about other services? Like, what other services do you provide beyond investments, budgeting, tax planning, estate planning, insurance reviews? Do you have any other services that you can offer on top of just the general financial advisement and wealth management?
Yeah, it's a really good question, man. So full comprehensive financial planning, that means tax planning, estate planning, insurance, retirement planning. I also have business clients, so we do buy sell agreements, business valuations, tax coordination. I mean, man, the list is long, but anything as it relates to the only thing I can't really do is give you advice on taxes as a CPA. I can just give you strategy. I can't actually do the work for you. You know what I mean? But I can give you strategy.
Absolutely.
But I partner with CPAs all the time to make sure that that strategy is implemented. So,
That's something that's very important,
yeah,
especially in today's age with NIL and, as we talked about, athletes coming into sudden amounts of money and
yeah,
coming into large amounts of money. Suddenly, here we have and a student athlete that may not have even left high school. We got many examples of guys getting deals with Adidas, with Tops, Fanatics, with Leaf, Panini, and you name it. These different companies, they're either in high school or early into their college careers,
right.
and in most cases, they may not have had a W 2 job or income as an independent contractor or a business. So, being able to offer advice in terms of tax strategy, you're able to sit a student athlete and his family down and let them know that, hey, it may be a good idea. You cross six figures on your NIL money. We need to get you an LLC set up so we can put a few things in place to help you reduce your tax liability. We can do this, we can do that. So, that's essential for you to be able to offer those additional services or have contacts that you can point those clients into to talk about those additional things as well.
Hmm.
Just a few more questions. This one is, I know we don't always want to talk about it, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because I was at a meeting where we had an estate planning attorney talking about trust, and I was actually the one that brought the question up
Hmm.
at that particular meeting. So, I'll bring it up to you because it's inevitable that it happens at some point. God forbid that something were to happen to you now or at any point in the short term or while you're running this business and working with clients. Do you have a continuity plan for the clients of who that business would go to and who would manage their portfolio moving forward?
Absolutely. Every advisor should have a continuity plan. I love my firm because as a member of my firm, we have some of the best professionals in the country that are managing clients' portfolios. So if something were to happen to me, uh, things would just flow very smoothly. My firm has a continuity plan, and someone in my firm would be able to pick up right where I left off to make sure that a client's assets are still protected, still managed well, and there's a good custodian, I guess you can say, of someone's finances. So absolutely, we do have a continuity plan.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. They can feel safe and sound, that they're covered. That somebody's going to be able to pick up the pieces of the puzzle. You know, obviously we want you to be around for a long time, but we don't have that final say. So that's good that you have a plan in place. Switching over to, just even more security for a client that might come on with you. If I go make a purchase, or let me rephrase that, if I don't make a purchase, if I get a fraudulent charge on my credit card, I can call Chase Bank or Regions Bank and say, "Hey, I got a fraudulent charge. I need you guys to remove this charge."
Right.
What kind of safeguards are in place for clients that you're managing their funds and accounts?
Man, safeguards include, I mean, Principal is a highly regulated firm. I mean, just as an advisor, this position is a highly regulated position. There's an authority called FINRA that regulates us. They monitor our text messages, they monitor everything, man. As it relates to people's assets, they're highly protected, highly secure, they're managed on a daily basis. The rails are really, really, really high. It's really tough for someone uh, to hijack someone's portfolio, if you will. And if they did, they're brilliant. So highly unlikely. Um, if there was a mistake made, it'd have to be at the arms of an advisor pushing the wrong button or something. But that's not usually the case. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Cool. Cool. Well, Malcolm, we've gone over the base of the business. We've extended out, and you've answered any and everything that your typical client coming in looking for advice on their finances, looking for wealth management.
right.
Last question I want to ask you is, what's going to separate you? What are some of the qualities, or what's the one thing about you that separates you and makes you different from other financial advisors that might be looking to earn an athlete or a high wealth individual's business?
Man, I speak both languages. But what I mean by that is I speak money and mindset. Um, I think it's very important that whenever you're partnering with anybody, it's important to partner with someone that knows who you are and where you're coming from. I've been in their shoes. I've won championships. I know what it's like to not have money and then to instantly have it, right? Um, I think that the relationship piece is more important than anything, right? Because ultimately, you want someone on your team who's going to understand why you tick the way that you tick, right? And then make tailored decisions or give you tailored advice to that thing, whatever that thing is. So that's what the difference is, man. Honestly, I speak both languages. I can meet you where you are, take you to where you want to be.
I love it. I love it. I fully co-sign this gentleman. I wouldn't have brought him on the show if I didn't. As I mentioned earlier, he is the very first guest on the Life of a Trendsetter show. So that should tell you something right there. I brought somebody on
Thanks,
that I
man.
knew was going to be an outstanding guest. You're welcome, brother. My brother for life, Malcolm Ruben. I appreciate you on the show. Life of a Trendsetter show. We signing out until next time. Peace.
Peace.